Good morning. We're first up today. Good to see everybody today. Missed not having it last month. Had to travel and then I got sick, but I'm better now, so I'm happy. All right, well, I don't know if you know, but this is just for the adults out there. It is Missions Month in the Church of God, so I thought we would have a missions children's sermon. But first of all, I have a question. Who has learned about the man Paul in the Bible? Have you learned sometimes in some of your Sunday school lessons? Maybe you have hesitant hands. Anybody, can you remember anything you learned about him? Isla, do you?
He was a priest.
Well, he was an apostle, yeah. He was a follower of Jesus, yeah.
He didn't start out as a Christian.
Right, very good. He was a man who at first didn't like Christians. He was hateful to them. But then he was traveling on, I have some pictures, and some of them are kind of small, but I think you can see him. He was traveling on a road to the town of Damascus, and he became blinded by a light, and Jesus spoke to him from heaven. And really that changed his whole life, and we won't get into all of it because we have a lot to say today, but anyway, and then he became a follower of Jesus. He became a great worker for Jesus. He traveled to different cities sharing about him. Here's a picture. Of course, this is just what an artist thinks it might have looked like, of him preaching to people. And he had many, many adventures. For instance, look at here. He's in a large basket escaping down the side of a wall. They're letting him down. The city of Damascus, he had to get out of there because people wanted to kill him because he was preaching about Jesus. Here's another. It's a little small, but you can see they're stoning him. They're throwing stones at him. They want to kill him. Why? What did he do wrong? Preaching about Jesus. Wow. Then he went on some trips. Here's one where he was on a ship, and it was a terrible, terrible storm that came up. All the sailors thought they were going to die, but he told them to just stay firm, to not worry, and all of them were saved because God was with them. And he even spent time, here's a little larger picture, in prison. Look at that. The only way out is way up there. You see a little rope and the light, but he has to look up and there's no way that he can get out. And what do you think his crime was? Why did he have to go to prison? Preaching about Jesus and God, isn't it? Wow, he was really, really faithful. And then here he is also, and you can see his chain on his wrist, and he's writing to some of the churches that he had visited. And those letters are in our Bible. So a lot of books of the Bible were written by Paul, like 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and more, but we'll just stick with those. So that was Paul. He has been called the greatest missionary, because we're talking about missions, the greatest missionary that the world has ever seen. And a missionary is someone who goes out and shares the good news of Jesus with others. Oftentimes they go to another country to do it. So again, this is kind of what an artist thinks that Paul looks like, or Bible time people look like. They usually have a beard. They usually have a garment like this, kind of like a tunic. They're usually wearing sandals. See them there? So, and again, that's what an artist thinks Paul might have looked like, the greatest missionary in history. So, here I got another question for you. What does a missionary look like today?
Anybody?
Maybe any. Would they look like some of us? Would you believe it if I told you that we have real life missionaries right here in this church right now? You would. You do know. You could probably tell this children's sermon, couldn't you? Who do you think they are? Well, that's true. And she's not here, but you're going to see a picture of her. Well, our first two missionaries that are going to share with you, they're going to share where they went and tell a couple of sentences about what they did, are Susan and Hope, your mom. So we have a mic, and I have a map, which I'm going to try and hold up while they share. So go ahead. And Mexico is right
Is
here.
it on? Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when I was a little bit younger, still about high school aged, I went on a mission trip to Mexico. We went to Labor Vieja, and we were gone for several weeks. And some of the things that we did, we took a long time to get down there. We stopped at all the different churches we could on the way down, because that was a good opportunity for us to meet with the church people and encourage them and grow some relationships there. When we got to Mexico, we put on a little Bible school, a little vacation Bible school for the children there. And it was also a good opportunity for us to visit with the people that ran that church, Roberto and Lupe, because they were pretty isolated. They didn't have a lot of other people around them that believed like we do, and they really looked forward to having us there. So that's kind of a little bit of what we did on the trip. And I know Miss Susan went on the same trip, but not the same year I went. And I don't know, maybe she did some different stuff, but we'll let her share about her experience.
It was very similar to what Hope did. I went on the trip 4 times in high school and college. And aside from everything that Hope shared that we did, one of the things that I got to help with, because I knew a little bit of Spanish, I got to help with some of the translating and creating of the materials that we used at the Bible school, because kids in Mexico don't speak English, they speak Spanish. And so we would either teach the Bible school in Spanish, or for the people that didn't know Spanish, they would say the things in English, and then there was someone there who spoke both Spanish and English, and they would translate it for the kids. But when we talk about Bible school, there were anywhere from 60 to 100 kids from this village that would come to this little church, and they would stay all day, and they would stay and they would sing songs and do crafts, and they would go around to different areas and have lessons and play games, and just lots and lots and lots of kids. And when we weren't there, the ladies at the church would teach classes for the kids, but it was really fun for them to have something kind of exciting to look forward to every year, to have the Bible schools that they did.
Thank you, Hope and Susan. Now, another missionary in our church is Lisa. Where is Lisa this morning? There she comes. And when she starts to tell you where she went, I'm going to show you on my map. This helps the adults too, because they kind of need a little help with it. So, all right.
Well,
Lisa will probably show you with her hand too.
I was going to say, I can show you with our hand too.
Okay.
We didn't actually do anything in Russia because people from other countries aren't allowed to preach or teach in Russia. You have to be a pastor there and be certified with the church. So what we actually did is we got to meet up with Maxim, you guys may know, in Belarus, and we did some Bible studies there with him, which was good. And then we actually went through a bunch of different countries here and all over in Europe to meet with small groups of believers who don't have much contact with anybody else. So we got to go through, I think we went to some in the United Kingdom. We met some people and baptized them who were there, who weren't near anybody.
Yep, right here.
Yes, and then in Denmark and up through Sweden. And then I think those were the main ones. So we met with them, we had communion, we did a lot of fellowship stuff, some baptisms, but so that looks a little bit different than, say, whenever you go as a large group to another country to teach.
Great. Yes. Then, let me see. We have someone who's not here today, but who is that? Sarah. And look at who the two people that she's with. They are from the Philippines. And I'm going to show you that. It's right here. Here are the Philippine Islands. Here's where we live in the United States, right up here in Minnesota. And she went all the way over here to the Philippines. Yes, on a mission trip. And some of the things that she did were, I believe she worked with the children. And obviously, you see her picture, she encouraged some of the young women that were her age. So that was pretty cool. All right, but I have another question. Can you be a missionary in our own country, in the United States? What do you think? Yeah. I think you can. And I know two men in our church who did that, Mason and Nathaniel. So they're going to come up for a minute and tell what they did being missionaries in the United States. Right.
One thing I did is I went to Tennessee, and there was a member of our church who lived up in the mountains, like 2 or 3 hours out there, and it was very steep and scary to get there. And somehow they had built a house, but we were helping them build a chicken coop so they could feed themselves without having to drive to a store, which is very far away for them. And we almost died on the way home, falling down the side of the mountain, but we made it.
Like Nathaniel, I did some stuff in the U.S. missions-wise, so I went to Louisiana, and we served in homeless shelters in various churches in New Orleans and the Baton Rouge area. I was on the Tennessee trip as well. We did some service in South Carolina and Indiana as well, primarily working with churches there and people in need just in the local areas. I know one thing we did in Tennessee as well is we went to Nashville and we worked at a community garden, kind of helping that get established and plant some new crops for them to use.
All right. Thank you to all of our missionaries that shared. Are there any other people here that went on a short-term mission trip? Because if you want to share, it's your Daniel. But he's not here. And where did Daniel go? Mexico. I think he's on one of the trips with Susan. Okay. So Daniel also went to Mexico. We have so many missionaries in our church. Well, there are still many people in the world, many people in our country who have never heard of Jesus and what he did for them. And so, but every time that you share God's love with someone, that you show them that you care, you're spreading the good news of Jesus, and you're really kind of being a missionary or a missionary in training. So I just want to keep encouraging you to follow Jesus. Someday you might be called on a trip to share the good news of Jesus in another country or right here in the United States. And I hope that you will do it because there are people that need to hear. And I've got a paper for each of you. And it's just a little sheet with a boy and girl, but it says, "We'll bring the world his truth."